This is Hannibal back here from the HannibalTV.com. Yesterday, I did a review of episode 1 to 4 of Vince McMahon's Netflix documentary. And again, this is me listening to all the inside stuff from Dave Meltzer talking about it. I didn't feel like watching the 6 hours of Vince documentaries, which is a lot of propaganda, in my opinion. And after hearing the review of Dave Meltzer's, I'm glad I didn't watch it. And even I actually enjoyed listening to Meltzer's review of it more yesterday, but even listening to the review of it 2 days in a row, I have to say I was getting bored even hearing the talk about it yesterday. But let me get into the main points about this. Apparently, Vince McMahon didn't participate in the documentary by the time episode 5 and 6 were filmed due to issues with his schedule. And you know what? He was running WWE for a lot of this, and he is an extremely busy man. He's a multi billionaire. I do believe he has a busy schedule, and I do believe no one has ever put in more hours in wrestling than Vince has. Um, and by the way, Tony Khan will never catch up to it because he doesn't just work in wrestling, he also works in football and soccer. So his attention is split in numerous different directions, which is one of the reasons why AEW hasn't been financially successful yet. As far as Vince goes, though, apparently there was some talk in this about him having writers' meetings at all hours of the night and so forth. Big deal. Like, honestly, most people in wrestling are night people, anyways. There's very few people in wrestling that I've ever met that are morning people. Apparently, McMahon rarely sleeps and is up early. But as far as wrestlers and people that work in the wrestling business, these are not people that normally go to bed at 9 p.m. I mean, you know what you're getting into when you're working for when you were working for Vince. It was called Titan Training for a reason. Back in the days when it was a crazy schedule, you get to work for an entertainment company. It's a lot of people's dreams jobs. Like at one point, it was my dream to work there. So I don't really care about the people that complain. I don't have many but I don't have much sympathy for them. Try working with, and I'm not, lots of people do it, but I used to work with developmentally delayed adults that were essentially psychotic and severely violent. Try working in that industry, which I did overnights too, where you're getting attacked on a regular basis and dealing with getting piss and shit thrown at you. I just don't have sympathy for people that whine about jobs in the entertainment industry, but I might be jaded. There wasn't much on Janelle Grant. Her publicity agency has put out comments of this about her more today. I'm sick of hearing. Like, let's just go to court. It seems like Janelle Grant just wants to keep herself in the spotlight as much as possible, keeps putting out these publicity statements, etc. I don't see any mainstream news picking up any of her publicity statements. That may be what she was trying to do by hiring Barack or Obama and Joe Biden's old publicity firm. I only see it being reported on wrestling news sites, anything from that agency. I'm not saying that the truth doesn't lie somewhere in the middle on that. Meltzer says, according to the McMahon text messages, that's where he really sides with Grant, despite some of Grant's stuff being proven to be untrue, which she initially said. As far as Vince's text messages, we never saw her side of the text messages to see how dirty she was talking. That's one questionable thing that I would say about that. Hurts, probably. As far as the Brock Lesnar favor, apparently this came up, or Meltzer was at least talking about it, the Brock Lesnar, Janelle Grant stuff. Here's the interesting thing. Brock Lesnar didn't even have sex with her. It seemed like they may have been offering Janelle Grant sex with Brock. He didn't seem that interested. And Brock could have pretty much any woman he wants. Why would he be? But here's the interesting thing. Why does Brock get blackballed over that? And Steve Austin, who pled no contest to beating up Lesnar or beating up her Deborah, gets a free pass. It seems like even Dave Meltzer said, I guess Austin made comments in one of these episodes about he doesn't believe in CTE. Meltzer said Steve Austin is like the titanium man. Nothing can bring him down. Nothing. People don't care what he does or what he says. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't know the Deborah stuff was true until I actually researched it and found that it was true. And then I lost completely all respect for Austin. And by the way, I did watch an interview with Eric Bischoff, just to digress for a second, from off the record the other day. And Bischoff said at that time, and you guys can take this for what it's worth, that Steve Austin wouldn't have been as big if he had stayed in WCW because of the amount of stars. And what is interesting to note, that when Hogan, Nash, and Hall came to WWE, Steve Austin was not in the main matches for a while. I don't even remember who Steve Austin wrestled on that card where Hogan wrestled The Rock. I remember Triple H wrestled Jericho, but like once those guys came in, it wasn't long after that they wanted him to job to Lesnar, and Lesnar left. So maybe Bischoff wasn't that far off on the Austin comments. But for Austin saying there's no such thing as CTE in wrestling, I've interviewed a lot of wrestlers. I've been in the wrestling business since 2001. I've also interviewed a lot of MMA fighters. I know a lot of the signs of CTE, and I've met a lot of wrestlers that definitely show signs of CTE. I even show some signs of it, which you guys can make fun of all you want. The main thing is, when I wrestled, I did take a lot of risks and I took a lot of hard hits, but also at the same time, I was a bouncer for years and I've been in a lot of fights. So I'm not saying it's all necessarily due to wrestling, but I do believe that CTE is a real thing. And I do believe that Austin gets a free pass for beating women, where even Hulk Hogan gets taken out of the Hall of Fame for saying the N word for a couple of years there. It's funny how things go. They talked about the Trish Stratus mistress storyline, where I think Vince made out with Trish during that. He also made out with Sable, and there was a settlement with Sable at one point due to some sexual harassment thing. There was a while there where Vince was booking himself in angles, making out with a lot of women. Yeah, Austin wrestled Scott Hall on the undercard of that WrestleMania. So, you know what? When Bischoff said that, I mean, he was right. When those guys came in, Austin was moved down the card. And as far as like the longevity of Austin, I mean, I don't want to hate on him. All I'm saying is I got completely turned off of him after I watched all that Deborah stuff. Someone thought that this was going to be better. I haven't heard anyone's. I mean, Meltzer was in it, and apparently he was presented very well. So of course he's going to like it. And he has every right to. But there's nothing I've heard or read about it that actually makes me want to watch this. Apparently, Sean Waltman wasn't mentioned by Triple H when he was talking about the Click. Neither was Justin Credible. One interesting thing that Vince pointed out, that Bobby Heenan never knocked Vince McMahon during the time he was with WCW, but Vince never brought him back other than to commentate a battle royal. I think the gimmick battle royal, where he brought Hall, Nash, Hogan, and Brett back, despite them really bashing WWE when they weren't with the company. Apparently during this, again, to go back to the CTE, they were saying they talked about Chris Benoit allegedly having CTE from diving headbutts and stuff, and then there was a scene of Hulk Hogan saying wrestling is fake and demonstrating how to do an armbar, which is totally way less risk putting on a fake armbar than a diving headbutt, where your head actually does take trauma. In the diving headbutts, jumping off the rope, landing on the guy's shoulder. I've done them. They can be jarring. It's our choice to do them. Hogan admitted to stooging off Jesse Ventura for the Hulk Hogan for the union deal before WrestleMania 2 in this. This was the first time Hulk Hogan has publicly admitted to that. And those were the main things. Someone else says it was a huge disappointment. Yeah, I guess broken necks don't happen either. I don't know. As I said, I don't know much. I don't know about Austin. He's a company man. He's probably. I understand he's one of the highest T-shirt sellers still to this day. So that's one reason he's still around and still on good terms with them. But the whole I don't believe in CTE. I don't believe that was the full cause of why Benoit killed people. I do believe it contributed to it because not everyone with CTE goes around killing people. But to say that CTE does exist, you could call me an expert with all the wrestlers I've interviewed and MMA guys. Like I can tell who has it and who doesn't. Vader had it. Vader was one guy that I don't know. I did tell this story before. I'll finish with telling this story about Vader, okay? When I interviewed Vader just before he died, he was telling me that like he was going to give me like the exclusive in-person interview at that time. And I didn't have much money. I was literally working as a bouncer. But I really wanted to interview him because I was always a fan of Vader. And I'm telling this story to tell you about his CTE. There was two. I think it was the Holiday Inn that I may have been back in. It was a decent hotel that I was in. Whatever hotel it was, there was two of them in Boulder, Colorado. The first time when he came to do the interview with me. Oh no, he came to pick me up to have breakfast with me. He wanted to have breakfast with me before the interview. He went to the wrong hotel. Okay. He went to the wrong hotel. He went to the downtown one instead of the one in the suburbs that I was at, which by the way, the suburbs one I think was closer to his house, which he did take me to his house during that time too. Okay, that's fine, okay? Then before we start the interview, we went to the hotel. We got set up a little bit. Then before we start the interview, he wanted to do the pre-interview stuff up in the mountains. You can see his introduction up in the mountains of Colorado. We drive to the mountains. We do that thing where he says, "Oh, I'm Vader. I'm about to do this interview with Hannibal." He drives back to the downtown hotel. He drives me back to the wrong hotel again, even though he just made that mistake. After the interview, we went out for a really nice dinner, and he told me a lot of he really got deep with me at this dinner. Told me some crazy stuff, including some wild stuff on what happened to him in Kuwait and some stuff about his ex-wife and son and about various legal situations he's been in over the years. He was really opening up to me. Anyways, after the dinner, he drove me back to the wrong hotel. So 3 times he went to the wrong hotel. That is CTE. Did I watch Wrestlers on Netflix? No, I didn't. Anyways, guys, have a good day and RIP to Vader. Vader was a good guy. I really loved him, and even though I didn't spend much time, like I spent a good 2 days with him, but sorry, a full day with him because we started in the morning, we ran errands. I was in Boulder for 2 days. That's where the confusion was. The second day, I did an interview with Vince Russo, who also lived in Boulder at the time. But like, I felt like I was friends with Vader. I felt like we had a good connection.